is from Lin Wim.
Hello, I'm quickly going to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Hi, my name is Lynn. I will be presenting my paper. The title of the paper is Modeling an Extension of Safety Culture within an Organization Using an AI Coach, and specifically reducing the risk of postpartum depression by incorporating communication with parents during childbirth. Before I start, this is in combination with the Safe Coach project here in the Netherlands, and I essentially created models to aid with that project. To introduce, I'm going to be talking about three main topics. So why, the father's role, and a father's perspective and desires. The big why is childbirth is a complicated process, and in return it has effects on the parents involved. Maternal postpartum depression is one of the greatest mental health issues that women face after giving birth. There's actually a 13% likelihood that a woman will suffer from this after birth. But similarly, and sadly not so well known, paternal postpartum depression can equally happen. And actually the biggest influence on whether a father develops paternal postpartum depression, and I will be referring to those terms in PPPD and MPPPD, is for fathers to, the most common predictor for fathers to develop postpartum depression is the mothers actually having postpartum depression. And then last but not least, having parents who are not mentally stable obviously has a huge effect on the child and their ability to evolve, and also on their mental health later on down the line. But that's just a general overview. I'm not going to be touching on the child so much, because the paper focuses primarily on how to help the father. And this is because of the father's roles, essentially. In a lot of research, mothers have stated that the father is their number one supporter, mentally, physically, and technically in all aspects after having given birth. Moreover, fathers are the first person who can see signs of change in the mother. So having their mental health be at the best, or as best as it can be, is crucial for both parents to stay healthy. And then last but not least, the fathers are always typically put into the role of financial support and the provider of the family. And the reason why I'm touching on specifically fathers here is because a study has been done by Myers et al., where essentially they interviewed different fathers after the process, and these were just some of the most prominent quotes that fathers had said that I just wanted to have you take a quick look at. I mean, I think the first one says it all. I read the information my wife was given. All these quotes essentially depict that the father is completely left out and his role is not taken into account enough during the whole process. So I use network-oriented modeling to create models, and essentially my goal was to, hospitals have protocols in place. They have steps for everything in place, and I want to bring the importance to adding a possible protocol, a possible step, possible education for healthcare practitioners in order to also help the father, and then in return have a positive influence on the mother and the child after childbirth. So first I will be touching on the decisions I made for the model itself. Then I have 4 cases that I will be presenting. So the first one is a case where the healthcare practitioner has a mental model. So essentially a thought track of communicating with the father. The second one includes this, but also an AI coach that then intervenes when there's not enough, when the healthcare practitioner doesn't act. And this intervention is time-based in the second case. In the third case, the AI coach monitors the world states essentially. And then if it sees that a world state is not activated enough, that the healthcare practitioner missed a step, it will step in and will do the action in place of the healthcare practitioner. And the last case is organizational learning, moving towards safety culture, where the AI coach learns from an expert in the field and then passes that on and uses the monitor formula to then monitor the world states and intervene. So decisions that were made based on the literature. There's a few factors which result in women developing maternal postpartum depression. These are all the ones that are considered are also present in the model. So a woman being multiparous versus nulliparous. Multiparous means that the woman has had a child before, one or more. And contrary to what someone might believe, that someone with experience is less likely to develop maternal postpartum depression, actually a woman being multiparous has a higher likelihood of the mother then developing postpartum depression due to the additional stress at home. Similarly to really any type of deviation from the original birth plan, from the mother's desires, in the sense that if she wanted a natural birth, but for her health purposes, she was advised to do a cesarean section. After something like that, even if she agrees to it, it still can result in negative mental health consequences. When there's no epidural administered, and the most shocking, honestly, to me when I did the research was that if a woman gives birth to an underweight child, she's 4 to 18 times more likely to develop maternal postpartum depression. And then similarly to MPPD, there's obviously higher risk for developing paternal postpartum depression, and these were the decisions and also the facts included into the model. As I said before, the #1 predictor is maternal postpartum depression, so that has a great effect. Same with deviation from original birth plan. And then what the paper essentially wants to include: the lack of support, lack of communication, and lack of knowledge. This is the base model. I'm going to start with the blue oval. That is the mental model of the healthcare practitioner. And it's essentially that the healthcare practitioner, the steps that the healthcare practitioner goes through in their head. And then the end state of that has a direct effect on the world states, on the physical states that happen in the room, in the delivery room. Then there's different colors, and I'll explain those now. So the emotion states are the red ones. Can you see my mouse? I don't know. I'll just point like this. The emotion states are the red ones. Then there is the process states, which are the yellow ones. So these are the general, that's the process that happens in very simplified terms. We have the paternal states. So this is what the father is going through actively. Then we also have the context states right here. This color, the bottom ones, in case you can't see my cursor. And then also the communication action states, which are the ones in the center, like communication support healthcare practitioner, pre-birth info, all of those. Now I'm going to go to the first case. Oh no. Okay, now I'm still in. Which is the healthcare practitioner mental model. And you see 2 levels here essentially. And the red states on the red level determine the weight of the connection within the mental model of the healthcare practitioner. And I will show you the effect of that now. So here is a simulation of this case. On the left side, we have the best case. On the right side, we have the worst case. So in the best case, the healthcare practitioner has a perfect mental model, meaning all steps occur within their mind and then also are translated effectively into the real world. Just for a quick piece of information, because I am focusing on paternal postpartum depression, I did decide to put all the conditions essentially for the mother developing PPD as low as possible, just to focus on the father's aspect essentially, but you will still see a change within the maternal postpartum depression risk. So in the best case, the healthcare practitioner does everything correct. And this is essentially where the healthcare practitioner sets in. And as you can see, up until then, the risk, these are all in terms of the risk of something, of PPPD and impede child development increases. And as soon as the healthcare practitioner steps in with the right communication, the right support, it immediately decreases and in return also has an effect on MPPD. In the worst case, this mental model doesn't exist. There is no indication that they should ever communicate with the father. And well, the effects are quite obvious. It stays very high. And there's really no sign of it. A little bit after the fear subsides, it goes down, but then it seems to be carrying on in a straight line at around 0.9, so at a very high level. And I'm going to go to the next slide. So the second case is where the AI coach intervenes. And in this case, for the base model, what I did is I duplicated the mental model of the healthcare practitioner for the AI coach to have this mental model. And same with the red states and the red level. Those were also duplicated for the AI coach. And then additionally, there was also some more green states added. Those are the H states, and those determine the activation. And like I said already, they were activated through time in this specific case. So in this simulation, you can see how that affects it. This simulation was done so that also the healthcare practitioner does not act. And as you can see on the little square where it says intervenes, that is when the AI coach steps in to take over the role of the healthcare practitioner at a specific time point. And similarly to the best case that you saw earlier, the results of that is that PPPD decrease in child development as well as MPPPD. The third case is the one that is closer to being applicable in practice, which is that the AI coach monitors, given that an AI coach just simply intervening could possibly have adverse effects on the communication that might be happening because it is only time dependent, the intervention. In this case, the AI coach monitors the world states, and you can see those by all those added states in the middle. Because they connect to the world states, they take in the information and they see whether there's enough activation of the communication states. And then if there isn't enough because the healthcare practitioner hasn't stepped in, the AI coach will take over those roles in order to ensure that the parents and the child flourish on in life afterwards. Here you can see the simulation of that. As you can see, obviously there is a little bit of a longer curve, yet it still has the decreasing trend. That is given the fact that the AI coach first has to make the judgment and cannot step in immediately. But in the end, it still has the same effect, just with a little bit of a extended. Then we have the fourth case, and this case is you have on the very left side on the red level, you have an expert teaching the AI, which you'll see in the simulation happens right at the beginning with the intent that the AI goes into a process like that with full knowledge, the AI coach. You have, except for that, most of the red level states are equal. And then you have the feedback and the feed forward, where in the end, the goal is for the healthcare practitioner then to learn from the experience and do better next time, essentially. Oh, there you go. So here you have the simulation for that. For the feed forward, that is when the AI coach learns and it has all the information. It's a line that goes up immediately at the beginning for the AI coach to be able to act when it has to. You also see, similarly to the example before, that there's the increasing trend, because I don't think I've mentioned this. The idea is not fear and those emotions. The idea is not to erase emotions from humans, because those are natural, and fear and those emotions come up so the risk naturally increases. But if the right amount of support and communication is there, then there is a chance for the risk to be lowered significantly. So essentially, you have the upward trend again, and then the downward trend starts. And at that point is the AI coach has intervened already, he's helped already, but then the feedback gets activated. And that is essentially where the healthcare practitioner then learns from the experience and also applies it, which is why there's a cluster of so many lines there, because that is the learning process of taking in the information. So some limitations. So the modeling learning during the process, this is sort of what happens in this example, in the simulation I just showed. It is the learning happens during the process, whereas the learning should happen after, and then further work could really play more on the interaction between the healthcare practitioner and the AI coach during childbirth, so that it is not one or the other, but it is a combination of both. And this obviously, I wrote down pressing a button. So for example, that the healthcare practitioner then activates, because I mean, we all know that the healthcare industry and the workers within it are under incredible time pressure. They're always out of time. They always have something to do. So just an activation where that could just be a help for the healthcare practitioner instead of a nuisance. In summary, I wanted to just highlight the importance of mental models of healthcare practitioners and having the mental model for a communication action, because as you can see, the effects were immediate. They were exactly what we wanted, essentially, because by implementing those few communication actions that we all possess, it can have a big effect on the family afterwards, because the childbirth giving process doesn't just stop once the child is born. Then I showed you an example of an AI coach intervening during childbirth, and then also an AI coach monitoring the world states and intervening if necessary. And then last but not least, there was the last simulation where the AI coach learns the perfect knowledge from an expert, and then the healthcare practitioner learns from the AI coach after the childbirth process. So in conclusion, knowing the stressors is incredibly important. You can tackle paternal postpartum depression by tackling maternal postpartum depression, and also vice versa, given that when both are mentally healthy to some extent, they can be each other's support. And that is, like I said earlier, they are each other's #1 support, and that is really crucial. And then also preventative measures are simply adequate support, adequate communication, and acknowledging the father in the room. Yes, thank you. Are there any questions?
Hi, I have a question for you, Sati. Hi.
Hi.
So what is the, I guess, status of the project? I mean, is this an ongoing implementation you have, or?
This is an ongoing project. So I wrote this paper as my thesis, and it's just a small model out of the many models that need to be implemented. It's called the Safe Coach project, and it's in the Netherlands, and they want to implement it, hopefully, an AI coach into a hospital setting. But for that to even be feasible, the AI coach has to have sufficient knowledge to be helpful rather than or be accepted in general, because people tend to I guess in some ways be a little close-minded to having a computer tell you what's right and what's not right. So it's part of a bigger project.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody has another question? Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you so much.